Greetings. My name is Dr. Albert Jeleni. I want to start this with a question, and a simple and honest question that I want you to answer honestly. Have you ever sat down at your desk? I'm assuming you have a desk at work. Have you ever sat down at your desk at the end of a long week, or after submitting your reports, after attending the meetings, after doing everything that is required of you at work, and you quietly asked yourself, where is this taking me? Where is this taking me? Now, not in a dramatic way, and not in anger, but in that quiet, honest moment when the office is empty or the team's call has ended and you have given it your all, and you are now all alone with your own thoughts. Have you ever wondered whether the years you are investing, the effort you are putting in, the competence you know you have, whether any of it's actually building towards something meaningful? If you have had that thought, even once, then what I'm about to share with you is directly relevant to your life. And believe you me, you are not the only one who has had that thought. As I've said, my name is Dr. Albert Jeleni. I am the president of the Limpopo Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and I want to invite you today to a specific session on Tuesday, the 12th of May, 2026, from 10 o'clock up until 12 on Microsoft Teams. The Limpopo Chamber of Commerce and Industry will host the virtual launch session of the Corporate and Government Empowerment Program for managers. The program will itself begin in June 2026. This is the session where we will explain what the program is, who is it for, and how your organization can participate. I will return to that invitation several times before this video ends, because I want to make sure that every person who watches this knows exactly what the next step is. But before I tell you what the program does, I want to tell you why the program exists. Because this is not another training calendar. Please get me right there. This is not a compliance event. This is about something that affects people's lives at work every single day. People's life at work every single day. I didn't say business people, because usually when people see me talking, they are thinking business people, forgetting that those business people have employees, and for the business to function, we are talking about employees, and employees are the business. And I do not want to gloss over this. So let us begin where we should begin, with the people this is for. Let me describe someone you may recognize. This is the person who joined an organization several years ago, or a department or a company. She was very, very excited. She learned quickly. She was reliable, competent, and genuinely committed to doing good work. Over time, she was given more responsibility, not always formally, not always with a title change, not with a salary increase, but she became the person people called when things needed get done. And yet, if you were to sit with her today, honestly and privately, she will tell you something that might surprise you. She will say something like, I have been in this position for years, and I do not know where it is taking me. This is a person who has given their years. Now, this is not a lazy person. She's not bitter. She's not disloyal, but she has reached a point where the work no longer feels like it is leading anywhere. She does it because she's professional. She does it because she has obligations. But the spark, the sense that she's growing, building, becoming, that has quietly faded. And this is not an isolated story. Research shows that across South Africa, only around 1 in 5 employees reports being fully engaged at work. 1 in 5. And that proportion has been declining over time. We are talking about a structural pattern, not an individual failing. Let me describe someone else. Now, this one is a manager, middle management. He attends every required training every year. Without fail, there are workshops, online modules, SETA programs, maybe even team building retreats. And every year, he completes them. He gets his certificates, he files paperwork. But ask him privately, and he will tell you, I attend training, but it feels like compliance, not real growth. He cannot point to a moment in those training sessions where something fundamentally changed in how he thinks, how he leads, how he solves problems. He goes through the motions because the system requires it. But real development, the kind that stretches a person, challenges their assumptions, puts them in a room with people who think differently, that he has not really experienced. What he is experiencing is the difference between training that satisfies a requirement and development that builds a person. The documentation is complete, the growth is not. Now, let me describe a third person. Now, this one is what I call the talented type. A supervisor knows it. A colleague knows it. But outside her unit, outside the work environment, outside the department, no one really knows who she is or what she's capable of. She does the work is good, but she sometimes thinks, I do the work, but no one outside my unit knows what I am capable of. Or even worse, none of the people who work with outside or in big boardrooms acknowledges a capability. They only use it when it suits them and at work. She will love to present her ideas to a wider audience. She will want to be heard. She will love to be tested against others in the field. She will love to be mentored by someone outside the immediate environment, but there is no platform for it. Her visibility ends at the boundary of her department. Then there is the fourth person. This one is ambitious. He has clear ideas about where he wants to go. But the post above him has been occupied for years. Permanent. So he cannot be promoted up. And so he finds himself thinking, the post above me is occupied. So my growth feels blocked. He is not wrong. The post is indeed occupied, and that is structural reality. But growth does not have to be vertical. It can be lateral. It can be visible. It can happen through platforms and networks that extend beyond the internal organizational structure. The problem is that nobody has shown him that yet, or the institution does not allow him to explore. And one more. This one is a high potential official in a government department. Her director expects results. Her team expects direction. A community expects service delivery, and indeed she delivers to the best of her ability, but she has not had a mentor in years, maybe never. She figures things out alone. She performs without a net. She thinks, I am asked to perform, but I do not have a mentor. She's not asking for someone to hold her hand. She is asking for what every professional in every other field takes for granted: access to someone with experience, wisdom, honest feedback. A peer community where she is not alone in the challenge. Now, I want to ask you something very important now. Do you recognize any of these people? Does somebody come to mind out of the characters that I have painted? More directly, do you recognize yourself in any of them? Because these are not extreme cases. These are normal cases. These are not employees who have failed or managers who have given up. These are the quiet, competent, underutilized people who exist in almost every organization across South Africa. And more so, if I were to talk about Limpopo, I'll say even more so in Limpopo. They have simply reached what I call a ceiling. Not because they've run out of ability, but because the environment around them has run out of platform. And here is what concerns me the most about the ceiling. It is that it is invisible. Nobody announces it. They don't tell you now you're reaching a ceiling. Nobody marks it on performance review. The employee still reports to work, still meets deadlines, still cooperates, still smiles at the team building lunch, but inside the fire has dimmed. And dimmed fires, over time, they produce exactly what we see in so many organizations. And that is people who cooperate, but do not innovate. You just do what you're being told to do and leave it at that. People who comply, but do not commit. People who attend, but do not contribute at the level they could. That is the predicament. It is not the employee's fault. It is a structural gap. And it is one that we must address together. In recent years, there's been a great deal of important conversations about employee wellness, for example. And rightly so. Physical health does matter. Mental well-being does matter. A safe, supportive working environment matters. These are not negotiable. Any employer who dismisses employee wellness is making a serious mistake. But I want to challenge us, all of us, to think more carefully about what wellness actually means. What wellness actually means. Because I've observed something. Organizations invest in wellness programs, for example, the gym memberships that they give you, the counseling services that they give you, team building experiences. They bring motivational speakers. They do recognition ceremonies. And yet, 2 weeks after the team building retreat, for example, people are back in the same environment, feeling the same way they felt before they left. And I think you can identify with that. Now, why is that? I think it's because wellness, as we currently practice it, often addresses comfort without addressing meaning. And there is a fundamental difference between the two. Comfort says you will not be in pain here. Meaning says you will know why you are here. So most of the interventions that are being done in our companies is really just to make you comfortable in the company. But it's not to give you meaning. And what we need is meaning. An employee who is comfortable but purposeless will not be as productive as an employee who has both. Think about it from your own experience. The times in your career when you felt most alive, most productive, most energized, most willing to go beyond what was required, were those the times when your office chair was most ergonomic or comfortable? Or were they the times when you were working towards something that genuinely excited you? When you could see how your contribution was building towards a larger goal? When someone you respected told you that your thinking had value? Meaning is not luxury, colleagues. Meaning is the fuel. And that's what most of us are chasing or looking for. So real employee wellness, the kind that actually sustains productive performance, must answer a deeper set of questions. Questions that the gym membership does not answer. Questions that the motivational speaker cannot sustain beyond a Friday afternoon. Do I know where I am going? Those are one of the questions that we must answer with our wellness programs. Do I see how my work contributes to something larger than my job description? Wellness must answer such a question. Is there someone genuinely invested in my development, not just my output? A wellness program must be able to answer that. Is there a platform where my work can be recognized beyond my immediate supervisor? Can I learn from people outside my organization? People who face similar challenges in different contexts. Most organizations cannot fully answer those questions internally. Not because they do not care. No. They care. But because of structural reality that every organization faces. Posts are finite. You know that. So you work in a company, you know that there are 2 managers or 3 managers above you. Management capacity is limited. Every manager is overworked, it's so busy. Mentors are rare and often overextended. I mean, within your company. Training is frequently compliance-driven rather than development-driven. The budget for genuine professional growth is often among the first items that we cut when finances tighten. And so employees continue to show up, continue to cooperate, continue to produce, often far below what they could contribute if properly developed and meaningfully engaged. And that is because nobody has provided the missing dimension. That missing dimension is not comfort. It is not even motivation. It is meaning. Where am I going? The direction, a visible pathway, a wider platform. I am not suggesting that organizations have failed their employees, not at all. In actual fact, many organizations, they are trying very hard. What I'm talking about is just structural. I am saying that no single organization, however well-resourced and well-intentioned, can provide everything a person needs to grow. No single organization can do that. That is not a failure of a particular organization. It is simply the truth about where individuals end and where communities of professionals must begin. And that is where the Chamber of Commerce enters this conversation. Now, before I continue, I want to pause and remind you of something practical. Everything I have described so far, the invisible ceiling, the lack of platform, the gap between compliance training and genuine growth, this is precisely what the 12th May session is designed to begin addressing. We want to address that. So on Tuesday, next week, 12th May, from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock on Teams, so you can attend sitting in your comfortable office, or the office you are not so happy about anymore. We will explain how the corporate, the government empowerment program works, who should participate, and how organizations can register. If this conversation is landing for you, if you feel it in your heart, that session is your next step. I will share the full details again at the end of this video. For now, please hold on to the date. Circle it, diarize it. Tell everybody on the 12th, I'm not available. Now, let me continue, because the next point is one that employers in particular need to hear. And when I say employers need to hear, just remember, they can only hear if you let them hear. Sometimes we assume employers knows everything, whereas they also have their own problems. I want to speak directly to employers now, but I want to take this towards directors, HR professionals, managers of managers, department heads, and institutional leaders. These are employers. These are employers. These are the people who are making sure that the business is running. The directors, HR professionals, managers of managers, department heads, and institutional leaders. So people like yourselves, not your owners of the company and all those things. It starts with you. Because the predicament I have just described is not only a personal problem for the employee, it is an organizational problem with real consequences. South Africa currently ranks 64 out of 69 countries in the IMD World Competitiveness Yearbook. So we are really at the bottom, 64 out of 69. A position that reflects, amongst other things, persistent challenges in business efficiency, work capability, and organizational productivity. Now, need I remind you that South Africa is the biggest economy in Africa? South Africa, it's one of the largest economies in Africa. But in that number of 64, there are other African countries that have done better than South Africa, although we have got a larger economy. I just need you to understand the scale of the problem. That is not a number I raise just to alarm you. I raise it because it tells us that the stakes for building capable, engaged, and well-connected managers and officials have never been higher. Our economy simply cannot afford for its best people to operate below the potential. Let me be clear about something. I'm not saying your employees are unhappy. No. Some of them may be perfectly pleasant, perfectly cooperative, and outwardly perfectly fine. I'm not talking about unhappiness. I am talking about the gap between what an employee is producing and what they are capable of producing when they are fully engaged. A cooperative employee can follow instruction. A productive employee sees meaning, direction, and contribution. That is the difference. And that difference accumulates. When a manager stops growing, the people they manage always stagnate. They inherit their manager's ceiling. They learn their manager's limitation as much as they learn their strength. And you know what happens? Before you know it, the whole company becomes a gossiping space. When a functional lead has no peer network, no exposure, no external thinking, no benchmarking against others in their field, they begin to solve every problem with the same toolkit. Because that toolkit is all they have ever seen. Like they say, to a man with a hammer, hammering is a solution. And everything that he sees is a nail. He hammers. When a government official is isolated from the business community, they risk making decisions without understanding commercial realities. When a business manager is isolated from public sector dynamics, they struggle to navigate the stakeholder environment their business depends on. And when employees have no visible pathway, something subtle but powerful happens. Creativity declines. Initiative retreats. People wait to be told what to do rather than proposing what could be done. They fulfill the role rather than expand it. I have sat with many employees over the years who were frustrated by what they called lack of drive in their teams. And in almost every case, the issue was not drive. The issue was direction. The employee had become very efficient at managing their current position, but nobody had given them a reason or pathway to inspire beyond that. A customer-facing employee who has stopped growing can still deliver adequate service. They know the process. They handle the queries, but they will not find creative ways to improve the experience. They will not bring ideas from elsewhere. They will not volunteer insights that could improve the product or the process. No. They do what is required, nothing more. Multiply that by a department. Multiply it by an entire organization, where everybody is just meeting the expected standard, but there is no innovation. So it looks perfectly functional from the outside, but it is an organization operating at a fraction of its potential. And in a competitive environment, and I want to be clear about this, our regional and national environment is increasingly competitive. That fraction, therefore, matters enormously. For government institutions and municipalities, the consequences are equally serious. An official with no wider professional network has no independent benchmark for what effective service delivery looks like in practice. Progress becomes difficult to assess, gaps becomes normalized. And in both cases, corporate and government, the cost is ultimately paid by the community, by the client, by the taxpayer, by the investor considering whether to place capital in the region that has the human capability to support their business. So when I speak about this program, colleagues, I want employers to understand clearly, this is not charity for your employees. This is an investment in the performance of your organization. Because the ceiling your employees has reached, believe you me, it's also your ceiling. It's a ceiling of your business. It's a ceiling of your department. So if you want to break through, if you want to emerge, if you want to remove the ceiling, you need to give your people a wider platform. I want to use a very simple analogy. And I use it not because the subject is simple itself, but because sometimes the simplest image captures the deepest truth. I know South Africa, we are soccer lovers. So think about the soccer team, your favorite team. A well-run soccer team trains every day. They have their coaching staff, their tactics sessions, their drills, their internal matches. Almost the same way you operate as a department or as a company. They wake up every day, they go to work. They invest in their players. They develop their squad. They build team cohesion and institutional knowledge. And yet, even the best run team, if they only ever train internally, will eventually hit a wall. They will have practiced everything they know. They will have played against the same teammates so many times that they can predict every move, their growth will plateau because growth requires encounter with the unknown, with the different, with better. That is why we have leagues in the soccer space. A league provides what internal training cannot provide. It provides a genuine audience, yourself. It provides competition that cannot be choreographed. It provides a table, a ranking that tells you honestly and objectively where you stand relative to others. You know those scores. It provides recognition that goes beyond your own coaching staff. It provides a pathway. Perform well enough in this division and a higher one becomes possible. A league is the difference between practicing and playing, between being skilled and being known. And talented players who only ever train internally without a league, some of them, they'll just quietly quit. Nobody wants to be put on the bench and being told that you did so well during the practice. Not because they are bad players, but because there is no audience for their talent. No wider community that sees them and says, that person is worth watching. So in our organizations, we have the same problem. And we don't realize that our employees are like team players. We have talented managers. We have capable officials. We have driven functional leads and competent employees. They are training internally, doing the work, building their skills within the walls of their organizations. But unfortunately for them, there's no league. They can only play within the walls of their companies, their departments. There's no shared platform where a manager from a private company can sit alongside an official from a municipality and an executive from NSOE and together confront a real economic challenge, share solutions, benchmark their approaches, and be seen doing it by a community that matters. If anything, most of the time, they're just rivals. Those who work in government, they don't want to see those who work in private sector. That is what the Chamber of Commerce can become, a league. So we will see your company as one team, the other company as one team. So we won't just be a networking space, not just a forum for announcements, but a genuine professional league. A platform where the work of managers, officials, and functional leads is seen, tested, benchmarked, mentored, and recognized beyond the internal walls of a single institution. Now, most of you have got some recognitions, Employee of the Month, just internally. But if we were to take you out and say compete and defend that title, would you be able to? No, of course, some of you have even been nominated outside your organization. But did you defend it, or you just got nominated because you can lobby? Now, think about how professionals in other fields build their careers through exactly this kind of wider engagement. You have a doctor who belongs to a professional body and attends clinical conferences, does not only update her knowledge, she becomes visible to a community of peers who hold her to a standard, challenge her thinking, and expose her to new approaches. That peer community gives her something her hospital alone cannot fully provide. It gives her perspective, accountability, and professional identity. Think of an accountant who gets to present at a professional conference. He does not only share knowledge, he builds visibility for himself. People from other organizations, other industries, other cities associate his name with competence. And of course, even your company gets to be associated with that competence. So that reputation is a professional asset that no single employer can replicate. A project manager who participates actively in an industry association builds a network of people who have already solved problems she has not yet encountered. When those problems arrive, she has somewhere to turn. That network has real and practical value. Now, let us think of an engineer who gets to present at a technical symposium, a public administrator who contributes to a government forum, an entrepreneur who engages with regional business chambers. In every case, the pattern is the same. Professionals who become visible beyond their own institutions tend to develop faster, solve problems better, and carry more credibility than those who work in isolation. Now, this is not anecdotal. It is the documented pattern of how professionals in every field build both capability and recognition over time, not just collection of CPD points. Now, with the corporate and government empowerment program for the managers, which the LCCI has structured, it's a pathway for delivering these to managers, officials, and functional leads of our region. Through this program, colleagues, participants will engage with real economic and organizational challenges along people from different types of institutions. They will present their thinking and their solutions in a wider professional arena. They will receive mentorship and benchmarking that their internal environments cannot provide. They will build networks across the public and private divide, because our economy needs people who can navigate both. You cannot just say, I'm in the public, that's it, or I'm in the private, that's it. We are talking public-private partnerships. And they will do all this under the banner of the Limpopo Chamber of Commerce and Industry. This is an institution with years of presence and engagement in this region, and with a clear mandate to serve the economic development of our people. Now, the company is the team. The chamber is the league. Without the league, even the most talented team cannot realize its full potential. I want to be specific now, because I know that employers, we're talking about the HR directors and the budget holders, need more than inspiration. It's hard to convince them. They need reasons. They need to understand what their organization actually gains. And I want to begin by addressing a misunderstanding that I want to correct before it takes hold. This program is not chamber attendance. Get that right. It is not a series of networking functions where your managers collect business cards and return with branded pens. This is a structured development channel deliberately designed for managers, officials, and functional leads who need a wider platform to grow, contribute, and be recognized. It is facilitated, documented, outcome-oriented, and aligned to the realities of the organizations that participate. When your people engage with it, they are not simply attending, they are participating in a process that has direct and meaningful benefit to your organization. Let me be concrete about what that means. Managers and officials who are regularly exposed to peer challenges, external benchmarking, and structural facilitation tend to return to the organization with broader problem-solving approaches and sharper leadership instincts. They become more confident, and confident managers typically lead better, communicate better, and drive better outcomes from their teams instead of abusing them, because they are also frustrated being cooked in their offices every day. When an employee has a visible development pathways, when they understand that their growth is not limited to annual performance, something changes in how they approach their work. They invest more, they contribute more, they bring more to the table than their job descriptions actually requires. That shift is not cosmetic. It reflects what professional development research constantly shows. People perform better when they can see that their growth is being taken seriously. And there I was talking about improved management capability and practical development. If we look into improved stakeholder coordination, for companies that depend on government relationships and for government institutions that depend on private sector investment, this program builds the shared language and mutual understanding that effective coordination requires. It does not happen by accident. It happens through structured engagement across the public-private divide. That is what this program provides. When we look at peer learning and productive benchmarking, for example, when your manager sits alongside a counterpart from a different sector, a municipality, an SOE, a manufacturing company, an SMME, and they confront the same challenge from different starting points, something powerful happens. They stop assuming their way is the only way. They begin to ask better questions. They return to your company with better answers. Let's look at the possible exposure to external practice and broader thinking. Like I said, no single organization has access to every solution, but a community of practitioners across industries, sectors, and institution types collectively hold a vast body of practical knowledge. Program participation places your people in that community, and that exposure can directly influence how they approach the challenges in your organization. Let's look at possible improved market access and regional competitiveness. Here, organizations that participate in the chamber activities become more visible in the regional economic landscape. Their managers develop relationships with other businesses, institutional buyers, potential partners, and collaborators. That visibility has direct commercial and institutional value to you. And I want to be explicit about something else. This program is not only for private sector. Now we're talking public-private partnerships. Government departments, provincial agencies, municipalities, SOEs, and local economic development practitioners are as much a part of the competitiveness architecture of our region as a private company. A local economy cannot grow if public institutions are weak. A municipality cannot drive development if its officials are isolated from business realities. An SOE cannot support economic infrastructure if it does not engage regularly with the communities and businesses that depend on it. The economy is not improved by one sector alone. It requires people in both the public and private sphere who understand each other, who can coordinate effectively, and who are growing together. That cross-sector platform is what the chamber provides. And the corporate and government empowerment program by the chamber is the structured vehicle for delivering that. Before I close with a formal invitation now, because this whole talk, it was to get to invite you. I want to speak specifically to employees, managers, officials, and functional leads who are watching this and thinking, this makes sense to me. It's a wow moment. But how do I get my organization to support my participation? Yeah, that can be a tough one. Eh? Work politics, all these things. Now, this is a real and important question, and I want to give you a practical answer. Many employees make the mistake of framing their request in a way that immediately raises resistance. They go to their employer and say, I would like to attend a chamber session. And what the employer hears is time away from work, cost, absence. That's what the employer is hearing. So that is not the right argument. And it is not even the right way to understand what this program is. So here is what I would encourage you to say instead. So if you're a manager, you can also coach your staff how to approach you. Do not say, I want to attend a chamber event or I want our company to be a chamber member. Say, I want to participate in a structured development program that will help me become more useful in this organization. Do not frame it as a personal benefit. You will continue and say, I will come back with contacts, with context, and with a wider perspective. That is not an absence. That is an investment. It's you saying to your manager. And I hope you can be creative around it. And if your organization is concerned about documentation and reporting, you can add the following. This program may also help us document participation in ways that could support our skills development reporting, SETA alignment, and BBBE contributions, where properly structured and subject to the relevant requirements. There may be institutional value here beyond my personal development. It's you saying that. And I will be happy to work with our HR team to explore that. That is the right argument. It speaks the language of contribution, not the language of personal benefit. It reframes participation correctly as a structured investment, not a privilege. And if your employer asks why the chamber specifically, why not an internal training course or an online module? The answer is simple. Internal training can only develop what the organization already knows. The chamber brings in what it does not yet know. The peer network and cross-sector exposure, the wider benchmarking, those cannot be replicated within the walls of a single institution. So take this conversation to your employer. The best way is also to share this video, because the same energy that brought you to this program is exactly the kind of energy your organization needs more of. Let me now speak to you directly, all of you. If you are an employee or a manager who has recognized yourself in anything I have said today, if you have sat with the quiet question for where this is all taking you, I want you to know that there is an answer. And that answer begins on the 12th of May, 2026. Here is what I'm asking you to do. Attend the virtual launch session on the 12th May, not as a passive observer, but as someone who is ready to take their professional development seriously. Come with your questions, come with your hunger for a wider platform, come with knowledge that this session will explain exactly how the June program works and how you and your organization can be part of it. And bring people with you. Don't just come alone. This thing of you sneaking out, come on, just invite some few people. It's a virtual, even if you are using the same device, as a team. So if you are a business owner, on the other hand, bring your managers and functional heads, the people who carry the performance of your organization on their shoulders every day. Those are the business people, by the way. If you are a manager, bring your employer. Share this video and make the case. Use the words I gave you in the previous section. If you are in government, bring the officials responsible for delivery, stakeholder engagement, and local economic development, for example. If you are HR, bring the people who decide how your organization grows its people. If you are an SOE, a municipality, a provincial agency, bring your team leaders. This session is designed for them. The session details are as follows. The date is Tuesday, 12th of May, 2026, time 10 o'clock. Up until 12 is just 2 hours of your time. Platform is Teams. And the launch of the program is going to be in June. Registration and joining details will be communicated through the LCCI channels. Please follow the Limpopo Chamber of Commerce and Industry on our platforms to receive this. It could be our Facebook, our website. I want to close with something I believe deeply. Our region has enough talent. We have enough intelligence, enough drive, enough potential in our people to compete genuinely and meaningfully in the national and global economy. What we have sometimes lacked is a platform, a stage, a league where that talent can be seen, tested, recognized, and rewarded. The Chamber is building that league. So the Corporate and Government Empowerment Program is the first structured competition on the fixture list. And I invite you, each of you, to step onto the pitch. The company, it's your team. The Chamber is your league. Let us build the league that our people, our organization, and our economy deserve. I look forward to seeing you on the 12th of May, 2026. Thank you very much. Shalom.